excited today. As you know, from time to time, I try to pick the brains of some serious thought leaders in the industry, ladies and gentlemen that kind of know what's going on way better than we do. And we've got our own expertise, but I like to kind of pick out those that are really getting the feel of what's going on best practice wise out there. Obviously, with regards to hiring, finding new talent, things like that. With us today is Michael Hellicksen. Now, I could wax poetically for a while here about all the reasons why you need to care about what Michael has to say, but I always find it's better to get the scoop straight from the horse's mouth. So before I do that, we're going to talk today about why it's important to always be hiring. That's the whole topic. We're going to start at 30,000 feet and end up way down at the bottom, and get into a bunch of details. But before we do that, Michael, for those that don't know who you are, maybe just give us, as long as you want, a background on what you're doing and why we should care about always be hiring.
Well, let's, give you kind of a quick background on me, guys. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Hellicksen. I sold real estate for just over 20 years and was actually the #1 agent in the country for a little while, consistently listing and selling over 100 homes a month. So we did a lot of business, and now I've got expansion teams all over the country, and I'm also a real estate coach with Club Wealth. And so you don't get to 100 transactions a month by yourself. You get there with a team. And if you're going to have a great team, there's lots of teams out there, lots of people put together. I would say good teams. There's lots of bad ones out there too, but there's a lot of good teams out there. But if you want to create a truly world-class team, I'm talking about the kind of team where everybody feels like family, where everybody's having a good time. They show up, they're excited to come to work because they love the people they work with. They love the culture in the office. They love hanging out with each other before, during, and after work. They love helping each other out. They support each other, and it becomes really like family. And you guys find each other doing things outside of work together, going on trips together, going on fun activities together, having meals together, just that kind of stuff. If you really want to accomplish that and produce at a ridiculous level, you have to master one thing. And that the one thing is you have to master recruiting. When you start selling real estate, you start off, you're in the lead generation business. And your whole goal is, how do I get leads coming in? How do I create more business? Once you get good at creating business, then you migrate into the lead follow-up business. Now you got to get really good at follow-up. And you've got to constantly be lead generating, and then you've got to constantly be following up with your leads. Then you've got to constantly be converting those leads into transactions. Well, this all sounds really simple, and it kind of is, but what's really important is you create habits that do these things. So once you've done all of that, then you start to find very quickly that, oh my gosh, I have more business than I can personally possibly handle by myself. So what do I need to do? I need to build a team. And let me tell you, everything in the world right now is going to teams. Everything. It's getting harder and harder and harder to compete as the Lone Ranger agent. So as I'm making this transition, I'm either going to be a part of somebody else's team, or I'm going to be building my own team, which is harder than it sounds. A lot of people think it's easy to build a team, and it is easy to build a crappy team, but it's hard to build that world-class team we've been talking about. And so now, as I transition from lead generation, lead follow-up, lead conversion into team building, I have to get really, really aggressive with recruiting, and I have to treat recruiting just like I used to treat lead generation. So there's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, Jay, but I got to tell you, in today's economy, in today's real estate world, I would say that for every team leader out there, the single most important skill they can hone is how to recruit the right people to your team. And then, of course, how do I lead this team properly? How do we retain these people on my team long term?
No, I think it's a great answer. I told you, I want you guys to just riff on what you're thinking here, because we've got an hour and we got a whole lot to actually pack into it. That's the topic today. There's this philosophical break that we see two people really come into in classes, and it's class A or class B. And they're either like, look, I need to hire somebody, and they think of it as a transaction. They're like, I need to find an expert X, buyer's agent, realtor in general, administrative assistant, ISA, TC, you name it. I'm looking for one, and it's a transaction. You want to go to a store, look through the folders, decide this is the catalog number you want, and you buy it and you go home. That doesn't work really so much anymore. I mean, we find that the smaller teams coming in think, well, that's all I need. I just need to add one person. I don't want to become a super mega team all of a sudden overnight. I want to get there slowly. Even those that are thinking I'm just ready for one for the next 6 months fail to appreciate that it's not like Craigslist. You can't just go up and say, I'm looking to sell an old beer fridge in the garage, or buy an old beer fridge in the garage, which Craigslist, I think personally, is a horrible place to look for great talent. That was an old mentality that people had too, including the way they advertised on it. But you can't. What Michael's talking about, and the reason I invited him on, because he does a really, really excellent job at it, is it's a shift to thinking about, you would never do that transactional approach to finding somebody that wants to sell a house or buy a house. That's the exact same. You don't have to think this way because you want to have a 100-person team. If you want to have a 2-person or a 3-person team, you still need to be thinking about it as always be hiring. The ramp up time, talk a little bit, Michael, about, let's just say, if starting today, you made contact with an individual. I think when we talk about this, when you and I last spoke, like dripping on sellers and buyers, how long before you find that awesome talent before you actually first maybe even got in front of them on their radar screen?
Well, that could take a long time. I mean, think about this. I don't take a lot of people take a really targeted approach to it. I'm going to go after this guy, or I'm going to go after that guy. For me, it's about, I'm going to go after the world, right? I want to get as many people, I want to create a funnel, right? Just like I create for my marketing funnel for my real estate office, I want to have a funnel that brings as many people into the top end of my funnel as possible and funnels them down into the people that are actually going to be a part of my team. So that's easier said than done. But what I want to do is I want to get a ton of people into the top end of that funnel. I'll worry about how I'm going to sort them out as I get down through the funnel. But the key here is, again, it's all got to be systemized. So I want to do 3 things. I want to automate, delegate, and eliminate, right? So as much as I possibly can, I want to automate this process. Then I want to delegate as much of this process as possible. That's where you guys come in, and you guys are fantastic at this. In fact, you do a lot of the automation, and I'm able to delegate a lot of it to you. And now I can save my team time. So all I got to do is throw dollars at it and throw a little bit of time at it at the bottom end. And all of a sudden, guess what? I've got recruits for my teams all over the country, and I can literally turn on a market like this. And when I say like this, I mean, as long as Brian gets you guys to, I'm totally joking, Brian. I know they're waiting on you for something, so I'm just giving you a hard time, bro. But
Oh, Brian.
I know. Seriously, I wonder if he's watching this right now. I have a feeling. Oh, look at that. Sunit's watching right now. So Sunit, this one's for you, buddy. We got to get it turned on. I know it's happening. So apparently we got to get something from Brian over to Wise Hire. So that being said, I want to automate that market, that funnel, as much as I possibly can. It's really important to do that because, again, if I'm going to treat it like marketing, if I'm going to treat it like lead generation, that means I'm doing it every single day. This is really, really important. The problem with most agents is they don't do recruiting every single day. And because they don't do recruiting every single day, guess what doesn't happen? They don't recruit. Imagine if you just shut off lead generation in your business and just occasionally reached out to 1 or 2 people hoping that they would become a part of your business. It's not going to happen. It's a great way to go out of business. So how many people do I need to be on top of? Well, I'll tell you what, Sunit, I hope you're listening to this, brother. I'm going to get in fact, I just shared this to our Facebook group. So I'm going to jump into the Facebook group and I'm going to comment on that post. But Sunit, here's what I want you to do. A minimum of 2 appointments a day, right? So if I go on 2 recruiting appointments a day, and if I literally get 10 appointments in a week, that's 40 appointments in a month, I should be able to recruit a lot of great people to my team. Now, here's the reality. Not all of them are going to make it. Some of them are going to suck. Let's call it what it is. A lot of times these agents aren't the best agents in the world, and or they're just not the right fit for us. And that could be for a lot of reasons. Maybe we're just not the right fit for them. Maybe for some reason I just don't meet the standard that they're looking for in a team leader or in a partner on a team. That's okay. We're not always going to be the best fit for everybody, but here's what needs to happen. I need to bring people into that funnel, and I need to bring people onto my team. I need to provide them with all the tools, the technology, the leads. I need to provide them with the back-end support, the training, the accountability. I need to provide them with a daily huddle where every single day they're getting face-to-face, voice-to-voice with me and with other people on the team to help them be the very best they can be. And I need to help them at every single turn to be the very, very best they can be at what they do with disregard for my well-being. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of team leaders think, oh my gosh, I'm going to bring people onto my team, and then I'm going to do all this training, and then all I'm doing is training my competition. You know what? Nothing could be further from the truth. Absolutely. When you pour yourself into your team, when you give them everything you've got and you help them in every way, shape, and form, you're not training the competition, because guess what? They're not going to want to go anywhere. They're going to want to stay with you long term. But the opposite is also true. When you approach it from a halfway standpoint and you think, oh, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to give them what I have to give them, and then I'm going to take as much as I can from them, guess what's going to happen? They're going to bounce out. You've just trained your competition. Again, pour yourself into them, give them everything you got. I keep giving you these long-winded answers, but at the end of the day, Jay, this is so important.
I think the reason we see teams growing is a couple of things. Number one, the efficiencies are that much better. It's not by any means a planned, but it's quite ironic that I picked this corner of the office to go ahead and shoot here today, because I got this big ass clock behind me. I just didn't realize it until I just heard you say time for the second time on this interview. But that's the number one reason. You don't have time. When you're good and you're good at getting new business and selling it, you don't have time to work it through the funnel. You got them up on the top of the marketing funnel. Sometimes your worst enemy is you, because now you got them out the bottom of the funnel and you got to service them. If they're buyers, then you got to go show them their 10, 15, 20 houses. Even if they're listing agents, you still got to do all of that. You don't have time in just a pure statistical piece to manage anything, to get a business that's going to be more of a legacy business. Nothing wrong with the person that wants to be the independent realtor that does everything, goes in, signs the contract, stages it, takes the photographs, goes over and puts the lockbox on, sticks a sign in the yard. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, absolutely nothing at all. If you want to build a business, though, that's making money when you're at the beach, or you're sleeping, or you're over with the kids, or you're vacationing, or you're going off to do something else with another part of the business, you have to build a business where it removes you from the center of the solar system. If you're the only engine running it, then when you're not running, it's not doing anything. So the businesses that want to grow past, there's a certain life cycles in business. You want to get to that next stage where it's more of a legacy business and it can be more running without you. You have to start to build a team around you, number one. Number two, the reason teams do so much more business it's not a direct correlation of the number of people. Oh, they got 4 people on the team, they do 4 times as much as a single. It's an order of magnitude better.
That's right.
And it's because the team people on best teams are hyper specialized at what they do best. You look at a generic realtor and you say, okay, so you've got to be an outside hunter gatherer, because you got to go out, network, prospect, negotiate, close. You got to be a good support person, because you got to do all of the paperwork and the filings. You got to be a nurturer, because they want to see their 30-second house, and you have the patience. Those personalities, which is what we specialize in, they conflict with each other. You can't find them in the same person. So when you get a team, you're feeding off of your strengths and they're feeding their strengths, covering your weaknesses. Everybody's got everyone else's 6. And it means that they can do the job. Michael, I imagine you could be a transaction coordinator for a day.
I'd hate it.
How accurate would it be? How much longer would it take? And how long could you endure doing that versus someone who loves to do what you loathe to do, as I always say? That's where teams come in. So the whole reason we're talking about this is, if you want to build a team, if that's what you decided you want to do, and you want to do it right, even if you're only looking to grow to 3, 4, or 5. Now, I appreciate some people are thinking, well, Michael, I'm not going to get to that level. I'm not going to be, looking for 2 interviews a day. Even for the majority of the people that say, I want 5, to your point, real quick, they're not going to always be the best fit. Yes, we help get better fits, but you just don't know until they get in there.
That's right.
Life circumstances that change. They might decide they want to do something different than real estate, even though they loved it. We see a lot of good people leave teams happily shaking hands going, you guys are awesome. I just have something else I'm going to go do. You're going to have turnover. You're going to have attrition. Where the bad teams come in is that increases when you take the old broker model of just throw some spaghetti on the wall, nothing out of my back. It's no skin off my back. I don't put anything into them if they fail. I interviewed a guy that had a brokerage that had 450 agents, and they were old desk fee model. That's where they were making most of their money. And he said very proudly, he goes, look, 9 out of 10 agents are going to fail in the first 2 years. So, and he does, he kind of puffs his chest out and he goes, so I've done this smart thing by reducing our risk by not investing almost anything in them at all. And that's that mentality of, hey, come in. If you survive, great. I don't care if you die, because I'm not, I didn't put a whole lot into you. Real teams can't work that way, and they don't
Yeah.
produce that way.
I agree 100%. Here's the thing. You mentioned that, for a lot of people on the call that they're not going to want to have a big team. And I can appreciate that. I agree with you that not everyone's going to want a big team. That being said, I would caution everyone who's watching this right now, whether it's on our Facebook group or whether it's on the webinar here. I want you guys to understand that right now teams are taking over. This is not a fad. This is a industry shift that is not going anywhere. It is absolutely changing this industry, and it's going to change it forever. And here's what's going to happen. Can you be the Lone Ranger agent and do 2, 3, 4 transactions a year and get by? Sure, especially if you've got a spouse or somebody else that's supporting your lifestyle on the back end. But the reality is, for you full-time agents out there, there's going to come a time where you're going to have to make a choice. You're either going to choose to have mediocre income and be relegated to only working with people that are referred to you. And even some of those, you're going to end up losing to people who have teams, and I'll share why later. But understand this, you're either going to be relegated to mediocre income, or you're going to have to be a part of a team at some point in time, or you're going to have to create a team, whether it's your team or somebody else's. Here's one of the things that's happening on teams right now. If I have a team, I can literally go out into the world. I can go into any market I want across the country, and I can say to my top 5 lead sources, hey, I'm coming into San Diego or whatever the market is. We'll use Sacramento as an example, because we've got an expansion team in Sacramento we're working on right now with Sunit. So I can go into Sacramento and I can say, okay, I want to buy all of the leads I can get in these top 5 lead sources. And those 5 lead sources might say something to me like, well, gosh, Michael, we've got an 18-person waiting list. We got 18 agents that want to buy leads in these areas. And I'm going to respond with something like, well, God, I really appreciate that, but that $750,000 I spent with you last year, maybe that could help me get a little further up on the waiting list. And all of a sudden they say something like, interesting you mentioned that, Michael. Guess what? It looks like a spot just opened up, and all of a sudden I can get leads in an area that was sold out. You guys, I'm sharing this with you because this is part of the dynamic. Along with all the things Jay just mentioned, there's all kinds of reasons why teams are taking over. So the key here is I've got to be recruiting. I'll tell you, a lot of teams are hiring recruiters. That's also very helpful.
It is. It's a growing trend we see for sure, and it is going to stick. It's not a fad.
Hiring recruiters is a great move, but that doesn't eliminate the need for Wise Hire. You still got to have Wise Hire. I love these guys. And you were talking about the disc profile a second ago. First of all, you guys invented the disc profile, like literally invented the disc profile. Love it, right? And it really does help us to identify potential challenges. It's not necessarily an indicator of, yes, I'm going to hire a person, or no, I'm not going to hire this person, but it can really help us understand that person better and understand where on the team are they going to be the happiest? Where on the team are they going to provide and receive the most value? And if I can identify that early on, I can prevent a lot of heartache, and I can also prevent potentially losing a great individual who may or may not be perfect in a particular position. I see we've got Campbell and Beth Hager on. Hey, Campbell and Beth, what's up? I got your text this morning. It's good to see you. I see in the Zoom webinar chat, Campbell and Beth are asking about the WISE score. Can you help us better understand, Jay, the WISE score and what that does, what it means, and how it's derived?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a key to understanding what you just talked about, nobody's going to ever be able to make the perfect hire. It doesn't exist. There is no such thing. It's just in theory like the perfect circle. But what we can do is try to make it a more targeted match. And that's really what we're trying to do with Wise Hire. So the DISC index, the profile that I wrote, is not the first. Thanks for that. I mean, Dr. Marston from Harvard created the theory, and there were others that wrote profiles based on it many years ago. But the DISC index that most of the people have been using, and I licensed over to Tony Robbins, I made that up, and I made the values index up. And we did that along with the third profile called the attribute index. Those 3 different sciences are what's behind the WISE score. So you see 4 scores in there. Our intent is to try to understand what do we see that correlates with the best performers. So we've looked at hundreds or probably thousands of buyer's agents, thousands of administrative assistants, all in real estate, thousands of transaction coordinators, whatever the role is, listing agents, you name it. And we've said what correlates with performance, the people that like the job the most, have the best satisfaction, and perform the best. and it's just a mathematical thing at that point. This is what the profile looks like of those three assessments: the what, the why, and the how, as we call it. What natural talents do they have based on how they think and make decisions? That's one whole field. It's like orthopedics, cardiology, and neurology, all looking at a part of the body, but from different angles. So what talents do they have? That's one profile that's measured under talent. Why, however, are they motivated to use those talents? Whole other scientific field looks at motivations, and are they going to be motivated like a salesperson or like an administrative assistant? Do they want the risk and diversity and constant ever-changing frequency of what they're doing every day, and they'll accept that if they get bigger commissions? Or do they want the stability and the certainty, and are they motivated for support and loyalty and those kind of things of an admin? And then how do they prefer? That's the DISC. That's the behavior column. And the Y score is a proprietary algorithm that looks at all three of those and says on a 0 to 100 scale, we're actually thinking about turning that into more of an A, B, C, D, F sort of scale. I think it's a little too granular right now. That rank orders them for you. So the idea is, like you talked about, make a huge, big funnel. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Big as possible. Social media, education-based content, networking, college events, email blasts, Facebook, you name it. Then try to sort those. So instead of dumping a bucket of 100 or 1,000 applicants on your table and going, I don't know which one's the best fit, I just randomly pick. And then I have to look at just a resume. And we know resumes are written by the individuals. 20, 30% of that may be fluff, and I'm being generous. It's hard to say why are they a good fit with any objective or predictive measures. So the Y score allows you to say, I'm going to start with the highest ranking first, then go investigate, then go do what you got to do. Never, ever just say, oh, highest Y score, hire him. Absolutely not. Phil Slezak's on here, and he's talking about some really great advice, and he knows what he's talking about because he's doing it a lot as well, Phil. And, not everybody will work out. There's so many things we can't measure. We can never know until we see it driving and, down the road and we're riding on it. So, I still am a big fan of probationary periods too. But a profile like ours should never be more than 25, maybe 30% of the entire hiring decision. You still got to do the interview. You still got to do the phone interview first and screen them, save your time, then do the real interview, and then have a probationary period. Because until they've been in working for 60, 90 days, there's still vibrations and, things that you're not going to ever find out, especially from a team dynamic standpoint. That's a big one too, that it's really, really tough to measure up front. We try with some team profiling with you guys when you first open your account, send a link to everybody on the team, do the team report, look for the cultural fits and things, but it's just impossible to know for sure. So all we're trying to do is save you more time and get you guys to the most targeted qualified candidates first. But that's allowing you, we see people that used to intentionally retard or pull back their recruiting because they'd say to us, I've heard it 100 times, I can't handle 50 people to look at. I don't have time to look and interview all 50. And I get it. So they would intentionally say, I don't want to put it here. I don't want. So the idea is if you just blast it out as wide as possible and automate, to your point, some processes that help filter that, then delegate through automation, in our case, processes that allow you to say, I got 300 applicants. Last month, we had a guy that in 2 days had 453 administrative assistant applicants.
Perfect.
But he's only looking at maybe 30 that have a score that's way up at the top, and he started with number 1. And then he looked at number 2 and then number 3.
So I would take that a step further. So I love it when I have, 100, 200, 300, 400 applicants for a position. And what I always start off with, if I'm talking about an administrative position, I always start off with a group interview. This is very important. So I'll bring everybody in. As long as you don't look like a terrible candidate, if you're just like, if you're mediocre on the Y score and higher, I'll bring you in for that group interview. And now during the group interview, I get to give my pitch about the company, and I get to say, okay, here's why we're the best team out there. Here's why we have a culture that everybody just loves to be a part of. And then I'll tell them about, here's what we pay. Here's the expectations. Here's what your job duties are going to be. Here's what your job description will look like. And that is going to eliminate probably 25% of the room right there. When they hear that, oh, it's not just a gravy train. I can't just show up and text all day and get paid. Oh my gosh, yes, you actually have to work. So I can eliminate a lot of them that way. And now I can start doing my one-on-one short interviews. So what I do is I'll have myself, and depending on how many people are coming to this group interview, it might be myself and my wife, or myself and another team member, or two or three, depending on how many I need to handle them all. But we will literally, at that moment in time, we'll do a whole bunch of very quick 1 to 3 minute interviews. Literally just 1 to 3 minute interviews. It's just a quick, how's it going? Tell me a little bit about you. And you get a chance to feel me out, and I get a chance to feel you out. And if I like you and you like us, and then we'll go ahead and we'll move you to a second interview, which will be a one-on-one interview for about 15 minutes. And we usually try and get it down to about 10% of the people that show up in that first round. So then we get it down to that 10%. We go back to a second round. Now we've had our second round of interviews with those folks, and we easily can decide from there who we think the top 2 are, or maybe top 3. And if we need to, we'll have multiple people on the team interview those top 2 or team, and it usually gets us to a pretty good decision from there. Now, if I'm talking about buyer's agents or listing agents, whole different story. Listen, I'll throw just about anybody up against the wall. If I think that you're not going to be a cancer on my team, if I think that you'll at least do the work, if I give you the leads, if I provide you with the support, if I give you all the tools, technology, everything you need to be successful, if I think that you'll at least follow up with those people and be able to physically go out and write them up on a transaction, I'll give you a shot. And guess what? I'm going to make it your choice whether you succeed or fail. And if you can't succeed in our environment, there's a problem, and it's probably not us. So I'm going to give you every opportunity to succeed, and you can prove whether or not you will. But here's the reality. For those of you that are thinking about building teams, and I know we've got Don Thomas, I'm going to get to your comment in just a second. But for those of you that are thinking about building teams, understand this. You can't build a big enough team. You know, when we were doing over 100 transactions a month, I only had 12 agents on my team. The rest were administrative team members. I had 32 administrative team members on my team.
Which sounds about right. It makes sense.
That's right. Because you've got to highly segment that workflow, right? I want to get all the stuff off the agent's plate and make it administrative and let the agent just do what they're best at. Meeting with people, going out on appointments, writing up transactions. That's what they're best at. They don't want to be doing paperwork anyway. Why? Let somebody else do that stuff. So when you think about those numbers, that's just about 10 transactions per month per agent. That's a lot of transactions.
Yeah.
How are you able to do that? You're able to do that when you segment that workflow, and everybody in the process makes more money.
Well, that's why you have a team behind you. You have a team supporting you. I mean, I'm always a big fan of sports analogies and the best teams in the world. Obviously, being in Philly, I'm a bigger football fan and an Eagles fan at that. No comments on the side chat here, but
don't worry. Most of the people watching are Seahawks fans anyway. It's no big deal.
That's it. And I'm more a college football guy too, graduating from University of Tennessee, go Vols. I think the SECs and the better programs, that's all they focus on is recruiting. They're building the team, and they're looking for people that specialize in just their one thing. We don't ever question that in sports, and I don't care whether it's hockey or football or baseball or basketball. We don't ever question it because we visibly see it. It's right there in front of us. You know that the center has to have this kind of build. You know the characteristics of the quarterback. Yes, a lot of it is mental as well, but there's a very big section that's physical, and they're visible. You can see them. So that's why hiring is so difficult. But if you've got the ability to start processes that look for those types of things in the team members, it starts with you. It starts with you people listening that want to build a bigger team or a team, realizing you've got to be on the lookout for those things. It's amazing how even without any profiling technology like ours, you can start to get a good feel, not great, but a good feel for what those are. That's not the issue. It's that people don't even think about looking for those things. They look at this homogenous group and go, hey, you guys come on in, and oh, you look like a hard worker who has a great track record, and I'm going to put you here. And they think success comes from intelligence and hard work. It's work ethic and how smart you are. Those two things will make you successful wherever you decide to go. And it's not. We all have these certain traits and characteristics that, it's talking about sports analogies, how many coaches have been star players? Very, very, very few, and vice versa. The talents that it takes, the innate talents, the natural talents that we talk about, they're there. They're fixed. Anybody that thinks, well, you can modify those to succeed in a role, you're wrong. All right. I'm not a fan of telling people they're wrong, but they're wrong. You can't change these things. It's who you are. They change slowly over the course of our lives, but we're talking 5, 10 years. I definitely don't think like I did when I was 16, thank God. But it doesn't happen, when you put me in a job and say, hey, I'm going to do these things. So teams are so effective because, again, all the other reasons that Michael's talked about, but it starts with the person who's in charge of it saying, I need to find people who love to do these sorts of things. And so, to your point, with 12 agents, but 32, did you say,
Mm-hmm.
support staff,
Right.
they love what they love to do. One of the things you just talked about, I want to highlight is filtering. So you talk about automation and you talk about delegation. I think filtering is something that we talk about all the time. How do I take processes that filter large amounts of people and stack those filters on top of each other? A cool statistic that we never anticipated, never ever saw it coming. On average, nationwide, only about 60% of the people that start an application with us complete it.
Wow.
That's 40% that don't. Think about this. People often go, what the hell, Jay? What are we paying you guys for? You're scaring off 40% of the applicants. It's too
Mm-mm.
difficult. It's too hard. We're talking about putting in your first name, last name, email address, uploading your resume, and taking a 12 to 15-minute disc assessment, which I think everybody on here has probably completed once in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on Indeed or one of the job boards, it's pushing a button to automatically upload your pre-formatted profile from Indeed or Monster or ZipRecruiter. So you don't even have to do that, and then taking the assessment. They don't complete it. We email them 4 times over the next 4 days saying with a private link, hey, you didn't finish the application. Congrats. We saw your app. We like what we see. We'd like still 5 times we ask people in the course of 5 days. 40% never ever manage to get it done. So the first filter right there is, if you can't give me 15 minutes to apply to my job,
Yeah.
I know I'm not even going to look at your resume. Thank God, I'm done. Appreciate it. I'm out. Then you go into the looking at the resumes and the other filters that he's talking about. Again, now your crowd gets even shorter and shorter and shorter. And then the mini microphone or mini telephone interviews. And I always recommend doing a phone interview with people first. It saves you that much time and you can rack them and stack them like that. That cuts it down. So the question to you is, out of 100 people that actually apply to your job, what percentage are folks that you would love to make an offer to?
Wow, that's interesting. Out of 100 people, I'd say first and foremost, we probably will invite to a group interview. And to your point, we actually do the phone call first. So we'll email them, we'll get their contact info, make sure we make the phone call to them. And if they sound like crap on the phone, it's game over. We're done. If they answer up, "What's up?" Or something crazy like that, or
Don't answer.
they don't speak quality English, they don't articulate properly, if they just sound unprofessional on the phone in one way or another, it's game over. That being said, to your point, we interview, we'll bring into the group interview in an administrative position about 40% of the people that apply. From the initial 100 people, we actually will probably I would say, let me do it a different way. We'll probably make an offer, and this is going to sound crazy. On the administrative side, we probably make an offer to 1 out of every 300 to 400 people that start the process.
Right.
Which on the administrative side is heavy. That's a lot. Now on the agent side, it's very much the opposite. We'll make an offer to better than 50% of the people that apply on the agent side, assuming that they have certain key attributes. First and foremost, we always hire for attitude and train for skill. I really don't care what your skill set is. I'll teach you all the skills you need.
Yeah.
What I care about is, do you have the right attitude? Are you in it to win it? Are you here to stay? Are you going to work your tail off? Are you going to understand that, look, you got to have a life too, right? And that's another thing you guys have to understand when it comes to applicants. Make sure that you and they are aware that you understand that no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home, and that you expect and plan on providing an environment in which they can spend quality time with their families. Because let me tell you, quality of life, particularly now more than ever, particularly with millennials, is more important than it's ever been in securing quality candidates for your team. Now, Don, to your point, Don Thomas, the Deflatriots fan. Sorry, couldn't help it. Don, you got to be careful, Don. to your point, first of all, does it matter if I'm a team leader and everybody works for me, and by the way, I hate even saying it that way, right? Because I don't look at it like they work for me. I look at it like I work for them. If I'm doing my job right, I work for them. They're my client. I need to treat my team members like my clients. But that being said, it doesn't matter if it's me, just one person at the head, or if I have my spouse as a partner, or if I have another individual as a partner. What I will say is that partnership in and of itself is the weakest form of business. So if I'm going to have a partner that I'm not sleeping with, right, or that I'm not married to, we'll just say married to, if I'm not legally obligated at this point in time to stay married to this person, then my chances of a successful team go down slightly. Now, we do have teams around the country that we work with, as we're coaching them through Club Wealth, where we are helping them to grow their teams, that are teams where it's two individuals that are not married, and they can be successful. But I will say they do tend to encounter more challenges than teams where it's either one person or a married couple. I want to come back to that football analogy too, and I want to talk about Pete Carroll for a minute. Anybody who's a football fan, I know, Campbell and Beth know Pete Carroll very well. They know exactly who he is, and I'm sure that as most football fans from other cities around the country, you're probably as worried about him as you should be. This guy knows coaching. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. I'm a huge Seahawks fan. As
I
you
opened it up. It's okay.
You did. You opened the door. I had to run through it. So check this out. Here's what you got. You, no matter, like him, love him, hate him, doesn't matter what you have to say about Pete Carroll, and that he has done a very good job of, and I feel like we're really good at this at Club Wealth as well, and for our expansion teams as well. That's identifying talent in places that most people overlook it. And one of the tools that you can use for this is that DISC profile, and really understanding, because somebody might think, oh, I should be an administrative assistant. That's really what I want to focus on. And they're thinking about it for various reasons. Maybe it's just what they're used to. Maybe it's because they want to get a paycheck on a regular basis. Maybe it's because they just don't know. But what happens is all of a sudden you notice on their DISC profile that they're a 99I and a 45D and like a 20C. That's not an administrative assistant. Let's call it what it is. This is a buyer's agent waiting to happen. This is a person who was born to be in front of other people. And so what you need to do is you need to provide them with that opportunity. I had a gal come to me, Lindsay Wan, wonderful girl, love her to death, wonderful woman. Sorry, I shouldn't call her a girl, wonderful woman. She came to me as an administrative assistant. We transitioned her out of the administrative assistant role and into being a buyer's agent. Literally, her third month on our team, she did 7 transactions. 7 transactions in her third month. That's crazy. She does not need to be an administrative assistant. It's a waste of her talent. Just like making me an administrative assistant would be a waste of my talent, or making an administrative assistant an agent is a waste of talent. Just make sure you're putting people in the right seat on your bus, and make sure that they're the right people for that seat.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about quoting good to great there. And if you've read anything on management or leadership principles, and I think you should, if you're going to become a team leader, if you're going to really be talking about building a business, I think it's a misnomer to call it a team leader. I get the legal structure of working underneath a brokerage, and so it's a team leader, but I prefer I love working with the clients that actually take the approach that they're starting their own small business. They're running this as a business, and whether you read Peter Drucker or reading Good to Great, Jack Welch. Jack Welch said that my single most important role is making sure we get the best people in the organization, multi-billion-dollar organization. And Jack's saying, and he was involved in up to the top 600 roles, personally involved in the hire at some stage or point. You have a chairman and a CEO that's actually physically involved in making hires 600 people down. I mean, so, the best businesses are run by people who take the approach that their primary responsibility is the people.
Yeah.
So we're talking again about a big philosophical mind shift of, I don't want to just go out and hire anybody, and good for them if they can make it. Hey, just come on in. I mean, so Michael's talking about what we see the best teams doing, which is caring about who they get on board. Caring about who the opportunity is going to be for, and if it's going to be a right fit or not just putting stuff out there and saying, hey, you're my person, here you go. It's about supporting them, about giving them the stuff. I bring this up because we get a lot of people sometimes that come in and go, I want A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So they've got these massive requirements for somebody and they want to hire just one. So they got a transactional mentality. They must have a license and they already have so many sides under their belt. Now, that needle, that proverbial unicorn somewhere exists out there, but you're not going to find it in 30 days. You're not going to find it in 60 or 90 days. If it exists, you're better off going with broker metrics and seeing if you know who the existing people are in your town and figuring out if you want to just go dial their number and see if they want to move. According to NAR, the 6% of agents move brokerages in a given year. So most of them are going out, not over. So it's a really, really small market. Speak to me, if you wouldn't mind, about the importance of opening your mind up to people that aren't existing licensed agents with a minimum of 5 sides, but no more than 15.
I love that we're having this conversation. And Campbell and Beth, you can, by the way, you can shake your head all you want about Pete Carroll. He's a freaking rock star. You know, I love you, Campbell. All right. So that may, or maybe it's Beth. It's probably Beth online. But anyway, here's the thing. What I want you guys to know is the same conversation Campbell and Beth and I have had, which is the Lance Loken model, right? Lance is out there right now. For those of you that know who Lance is, he's a big team leader. What he does is he brings people on board and they start off, they could have no experience in the industry. Doesn't care. Doesn't matter. Right? So these people come on board onto the team. They start off as an ISA and they get to now spend 6 months as an ISA proving their value, proving themselves as an ISA and showing that they're going to make the phone calls necessary, showing that they're going to do what it takes to be successful. And only after they hit certain KPIs or key performance indicators do they then have the option or the ability or the opportunity to become a buyer's agent or a listing agent on that team. And so I'm all for it. Now, I don't think that we should do all new agents, and I don't think we should bring on all experienced agents. I think you want a mix. I think the good, healthy team has a healthy mix of both. And here's part of the reason why. If all I do is hire experienced agents, I'm constantly untraining bad habits.
Yeah.
I'm constantly trying to prove my value to them until they finally realize, oh my gosh, look how much better it is here than where I had it before. If I'm constantly hiring new agents, I don't have to untrain bad habits, but I have to train everything else. And so what I want to do is I want to make sure that I've got some experienced agents that can help them with the 80% of the help that they're going to need. And then all I get is I got to worry about that extra 20%. I got to worry about that stuff that I'm untraining team wide and I'm really working with them on. The challenge with the newer agents, and Campbell, you just hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much. I completely agree. Oh, and you're both on, Campbell and Beth. You guys just hit the nail on the head. The new agents don't understand the value of the team. They don't have a clue what they have because you're giving them so much. They just assume everybody gives that. So you will have some turnover with some of those newer agents because if you can't completely articulate the value well enough, and even if you do, you're going to have turnover that you can't control. And so I would say have a mix of both, but I really like that model where you start off bringing them on as an ISA and then you transition those new air agents into a buyer's agent after a minimum of, I would say, 6 months. Now, during that time, the last thing I'll say, and then Jane, we'll jump back to you, but the other thing that I would suggest is for those agents in that position, generally speaking, you're going to need to put them on some kind of a salary. What we do on our teams, and at Club Wealth, for example, with our sales team at Club Wealth, we literally put them on minimum wage against commission. So what happens is each pay period, they get the greater of minimum wage or whatever commission they would have earned. And we do that on a per pay period basis. And that keeps us above the board in terms of legal requirements. One of the challenges, and actually this is probably a good time to talk about this, that you need to be aware of is that the more we require of our teams and the more we dictate what they can and can't do and the more that we structure what they're supposed to be doing in the business, the closer and closer and closer they get to being what what the IRS would determine as a W-2 employee.
Yep.
And that's a big debate in the industry right now. And I'll tell you, the IRS is working hard to come after your people and make them a W-2 instead of a 1099. They've wanted to do it with agents for years. The NAR's done a good job of fighting them off. I should say RPAC's done a really good job of fighting them off. But what you need to understand is they're pushing for it. And so if you've got people on your team and you say you got to make this many calls a day and you've got to do this per day and you got to do this, this, and this, there's a chance that the IRS could consider them a W-2 employee. So you need to be prepared for that.
I think, I should probably ask you for your opinion on it, but I think ultimately they're going to win, um, just because historically the IRS never loses. Um, you
Death
know,
and taxes.
yeah, if you can create like a church for Scientology, then you have a chance of maybe denying the IRS. But outside of that, most industries usually lose to the IRS. I mean, well,
Yeah,
it's just a real case study where they actually beat the IRS, but that's how rare it is. So, with all the legal proceedings, and there's some precedents coming down with lawsuits that are in the midst right now, I think it's a good chance that they're going to win some partial movement towards having to consider these people. There has been an argument made for the more you focus on having a team, the more shored up you are and prepared for when that type of things happen, because really the only shift there is going to be to make them W-2, which would still be fine with minimum wage and commission based, which is what every sales organization in the country does anyway.
that's right.
There's nothing wrong with that, so um, I think
And
if you can
by
find.
the way, I got to jump in on that, Jay. We are doing our teams a favor when we pay them on a W-2. You guys need to understand this. It's better for them, because how many independent contractors have gone out and had trouble paying their taxes in a given year? Now, I'm
A lot.
not saying that every buyer's agent or listing agent you bring on the team, I'm not saying you need to carte blanche, say, okay, we're going to start making buyer's agents and listing agents W-2 employees. But I would consider it, if not now, in the near future. And the reason, again, I say this is because it's going to help them ensure that their taxes are always paid, and it's going to keep you out of potential legal trouble down the road. And if you're just a 4 to 10 person team, is it going to be a problem for you? Probably not. You start doing 400 to 1,000 transactions a year, you need to have this on your radar.
Absolutely, you better, because
Yeah.
it's on someone else's. You did mention early on about one common complaint we hear, which I think is short-sighted. I think it's minimalist thinking. It's definitely not, abundance mentality, but a way to shore yourself up against worrying as well that people are going to come in, take what you need, and then leave. If they're employees with a W-2, that's going to attract a person that's going to be more likely to stay. Making a jump, if I'm 100% independent and I'm already self-employed, I'm not changing anything if I just go out and hang up my own shingle and do it. It's a big difference when it goes into, I'm an employee and now I'm going to go out. One benefit to having that kind of approach, again, I'm not saying you must go out and do this right now, but if you're thinking strategically down the road, within a 5-year window, there's going to be some major shifts in this thought process. The great outside salespeople that we see come in, I'm a huge fan of them. Yes, I agree. It's got to be a nice mix. Everything should be a nice mix of diversity. But we see some of the best people come in who had no idea what real estate was outside of buying or selling a house, but they were phenomenal monster hunter salespeople. They were
Yeah.
outside sales professionals selling $100, probably more, 2,000, 5,000, $50,000 widgets. We've seen some capital salespeople come in, and in a year they might have a $300,000 negotiation. They know how to sell. They've gotten some of the best sales training from these big organizations, and they're just awesome at it. The
Yep.
only way they can make more money is to sell a more expensive thing. They can't make more time in the day, and so they can only sell so many $5,000 widgets in a day. Take that $5,000 widget, bump it up to the median home price last year in the United States at $292,000 for a house. That's how they make more money.
That's
And
right.
so those people are not so attracted to going from a stable environment where they're an employee for a sales organization. And it's a little bit harder to get them to come in and say, look, you're 100% commission. Sometimes that can reduce your chances of getting a phenomenal salesperson. So just
That's right.
you got to experiment with what works for you. I know there's people that'll come in and say, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but sometimes we get lazy people that come in and say, look, I just want somebody, I'm going to put some money out there. I want to give it 1 month. I want to find, uh, you know, God or nature's gift to me for a salesperson. They want to walk in the door. They already
Yeah.
got their license. They already have a couple of sides. They just start working for me. I don't even know what my compelling value proposition is as to why they would leave and come here. I'm just a
Yeah.
nice person and I got leads that I can hand them. They got leads where they are. If you think that you being able to push somebody leads is your distinguishing characteristic as to why someone should work for you, think again. That's not going to be the only thing that they're interested in. They want the leads, they want the mentality Michael's talking about, they want the support, and depending on the job, the internal funnel is something that he talked about as well. Not only do you see people coming in as an ISA moving up
Yeah.
to buyers agents, how many times have you seen somebody that was an admin that moved to an ISA that ended up moving up into a buyer's agent because they came in under a job that they liked and they got in there and they realized, hey, that looks fun. And they have the Y score. Actually, you'll see they're a good match for this, a good match for that. They might be good fits for a whole bunch of things inside your team, we've seen that too. Somebody came in as an admin and said, I want to try being an ISA. It's a perfect internal funnel, as you talked about from outside.
Yeah.
This is an inside funnel.
It really is. And, you know, it's particularly, you talk about the people coming over from corporate America. We've had several of these happen in the last, 6 months inside of Club Wealth. And I can tell you examples both ways. I can show you examples of where people have come from corporate America and struggled on the team. And I can show you examples of people that have come from corporate America and just excelled on teams and been phenomenal. In fact, I can show you that in the same city in some cases. Again, what I would suggest is, it's kind of to your point, price is only an issue in the absence of value, as is retention, right? If I'm providing massive value for my team, they're going to want to stay. If I'm not providing the value, if I'm not treating my team members like clients, guess what? They're out of here. They have no need for me. They can go be abused elsewhere. There's lots of places that would love to abuse them. So what I've got to do is I've got to bring massive value. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean paying them a ridiculous split. That's another thing that people don't understand. I talked to somebody this morning. They're offering these unsustainable splits to these agents, and it's like, dude, you're not doing yourself or the team member a favor by offering them an ultra high split, because if you're out of business in 6 months or 12 months, that doesn't serve them any more than it serves you. You need to make sure that whatever you're doing with the overall structure of your team, that it's sustainable and scalable. Those are two words that you need to really get your head around, is sustainable and scalable. And if it's not both of those things, there's a problem, and we need to address that. And that's what we look at all the time at Club Wealth. We're constantly looking at team models, and we're constantly looking, okay, where are the holes in this person's business? How do we help them get to that next level in a way that's scalable and sustainable? So speaking of which, Christine Robertson, I don't know if she's still on, but she was on here with us a moment ago, and she's doing a really good job with organic posts in driving traffic and recruiting people to her team. And I want to encourage you guys, get out there. First of all, use WiseHire. We use them. There's a reason why we use WiseHire. We build the biggest teams in the country, and almost every one of our coaching clients now that's building a big team and is serious about recruiting is using WiseHire. So that's step one. Step two, get out there and do a lot of organic posting as well. And Christine started off, and she put this great post out there. She says, hey, a lot of you are interested in being involved in real estate. How would you like to just get paid for setting appointments for me? You don't have to have any real estate experience whatsoever. I'll just pay you to set appointments for you. You don't even have to have a real estate license. And oh my gosh, it blew up, and she got all of these people opting in, and she now has been able to hire a whole bunch of people as ISAs onto her team. That incubates them, and potentially eventually they will also become buyer's agents. And so just understand, you've got to go at this in every way, shape, and form to bring people into the top end of that funnel. Let's go to Phil's question. It says, don't hire in masses, then fire their okay, as Jay said, go through the WiseHire score, and you don't want, let's see, hold on, as you don't want to coach in 0R after you put them through training. If you leave your team, I get upset if the first person left, but I understand if they leave. Really, they're not going to survive on any team if they can't succeed on your team with leads provided. Okay, first of all, I would agree with you that with all the stuff that we provide them, if they can't survive there, they're not going to survive anywhere. I will challenge you on one thing, though, and that is, you say don't hire in masses. When it comes to buyer's agents and listing agents, okay, I'm just talking about buyer's agents and listing agents. When it comes to hiring agents for my team, I am all about hiring in masses. Now, here's what I mean by that. I'm going to hire fast and I'm going to fire fast. Now, that's very unusual. Most people would not agree with that philosophy. It has worked very well for me for a very long time, and here's why. If I bring somebody onto my team, I usually know within 2 weeks whether they're going to make it or not. I usually know within 2 weeks whether they're going to be great or they're going to suck. And Campbell says it right? Hire fast, fire fast, shoot the hostages, right? If you don't shoot a hostage once in a while, nobody takes you seriously enough. So look, we have something great that we offer. We provide so much value that you'd be crazy not to want to be a part of one of our teams. So then why in the world wouldn't I give them the opportunity to be on our team when they realize how great that opportunity is? And then if they don't make it, if they choose not to do the work, and that's really it, right? There's only two ways you're going to fail on my team. One is you just don't do the work. Two is you just have a crappy attitude, which I can usually weed that out before I bring you on the team. So if you just show up and, to your point, Jay, you never really know what you got until they're on the team. So now that I've got them on the team, I give them that chance to succeed. I've looked at their disc profile. I know they're in the right position on the team. For example, I know that my listing agents do better when they have more D in them than I. If I can get a listing agent, I really want to see my listing agents at a 45 and higher. I prefer a 60 and higher D.
Yeah.
My buyer's agents, if you're going to be a buyer's agent, you'd better be over 75i. If you're lower than 75i as a buyer's agent, you're going to burn out. But if I'm a 99i and a 50, like a 30c, I'm a terrible administrative assistant. So again, I'm putting people on the right spot on my team based on that disc profile and based on my conversations with them.
Well, let me find a middle ground. I think you and Phil are saying the exact same thing. Zach is saying that don't hire by masses. I think what you're saying, and you're both saying it, is don't hire blindly.
Right.
You have a measured, systematized approach to hiring. Volume and masses are different. So by the use of masses, I think he's saying, hey, just don't open cattle call. Anybody that shows up will get hired. You can do a targeted, selected hiring decision in high volume. So that would qualify as masses. But you said it yourself. So you're going through Wise Hire. 40% of the people that are asked to take the DISC assessment won't. Boom. You just filtered out 40% of the people that thought it was okay to apply with one thumb and while they're eating the Big Mac, and that's all the work they had to do and waiting for the call to come, up to the majors. Then you got 60%. You said about 30% of those, 40% of those, 60% you take. So about 30 out of 100 you're even thinking about looking at. And then you go into the stages of interviews. This system allows you to get to the bottom of the crowd that's most likely targeted for what you want. You can titrate that down for admins really tight, as you said, 1 out of 100 or 2, 1% or even 0.5%, you're going to make an offer for, because they're longer lasting. They're a lot more specialized. Agents have a different mentality and accept more risk like that. The biggest thing is, as we're wrapping up here, we're talking about why you have to have an always be hiring mentality. People, if you're thinking like a salesperson, you're okay with accepting that out of 10 leads, I might land 1. And the 9 that reject me, or the 8 that say no or don't work out, I don't take it personally. When we go to hiring, we have to have the same mentality. And that doesn't mean I'm saying that I accept the same numbers as 80 or 90% of the people I hire are going to fail. It's a fluid environment. I'm going to bring people in. I'm going to do the best job I can to try to reduce the turnover, but I will have turnover. That's what I'm saying. You got to accept. I hear people that call in, they're like, well, I hired one person and it lasted for 9 months and then they quit. And so it took me 3 months to hire their replacement. And then they ended up working for a year and then they quit. Expect it. You didn't say, I went and found one client and I sold their house. And when they were done, I went and started looking for one more. And then when I sold their house, I went and looked for, you have waste, you have attrition. Right. People that are going to come in, find out it's a good system and stay. Some are going to move out, some are going to move up, but there's going to be a constant churn. So if you're trying to build a team, even a small one, 4 or 5 people, and you're not constantly thinking the exact same approach you have on keeping that flywheel spinning, marketing for clients and marketing for talent, it has to go hand in hand. That's the primary job of a team lead. The ones that we see killing it out there are always thinking about it the exact same. So don't go on marketing here and transactional here. They have to both have the same mentality. I'll give you the last word, Michael, on why you should always be hiring in that mentality, never stop.
Well, I mean, you just really hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's like anything else. I got to constantly feed the front end of my pipeline, right? I got to put stuff into that funnel all the time. I got to incubate that funnel, and I got to work on seeing what comes out the back end of that funnel. Then once I get it out the back end of that funnel, that's my gold, right? I got to take really good care of those folks. A couple of questions we had, and I know we've got like 1 minute left, so I'll rattle through this super fast. But Kira was asking, do I conduct group interviews for agents? If I'm you, if I'm most agents out there today, and I don't have such massive momentum that people are flocking to be a part of my team, I'm probably not doing group interviews for agents. I will do group interviews for administrative team members, however. Now, there was a point in time with my business where I did do group interviews for agents because, frankly, I just couldn't get to everybody in time, and I would get 30, 40 people, agents in a room that wanted to be on our team. You're probably not there yet, so I would start with focus on the one-on-one interviews with the agents. In terms of scripting for recruiting agents on, and you're saying on low splits or small desk fees versus 50-50, et cetera, I would really, Jay, I would need to know your model better. This is not Jay Niblick, but Jay Odoleski. I probably screwed that name up. Sorry if I pronounced your name right. I know I butchered that name. Anyway, I would need to know your model better to help you really come up with a USP that would work well for how do I do my elevator pitch for that niche. And then Rocio, you were asking about, Rocio is one of our newest Club Wealth members, and Rocio was asking about ISA. That's inside sales agent. That's essentially people that sit in the office all day and make phone calls over and over and over again, setting appointments for the other agents on the team. So
fastest growing trend, by the way.
It
Inside
is.
teams, fastest growing position we see more and more interest in.
And it's also the highest turnover position. That is the hardest position to fill with good people and keep filled. In fact, we just recently hired 3 more ISAs for one of our teams for Club Wealth. And I got to tell you, we went through, I think we started off, I can't remember the number we started off with at the top of the funnel, but I think it was a couple hundred. It was 150, 200, something like that. And we got, and it took us, a couple of weeks. We did a webinar for them and all kinds of stuff. Our group interview, because they're all over the country, our group interview was held via webinar, and we whittled that down to the 3 people that we ended up hiring.
It's a tough position. It's tough. It's hard to get the right mix because you have to have a sales approach with somewhat of a support, the ability to say, I'm fine dialing 150 calls a day, Monday, Tuesday, when I'm going to do this next week and next week. It's tough to find somebody that's that right mix. If they do, they end up usually going out. If they want to go out and make a buyer's agent, very good slots to go into that. So look, Michael, thank you very much. We're out of time. We'll respect everybody's calendars here. I'm sure they've all got things to go out and do, like go find more people to hire and houses to sell. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it, guys. Check out Club Wealth. Michael, where do you want them to go?
Check out clubwealth.com. If you're a real estate agent listening to this right now, we've got a ton of great free stuff on our blog. Go to clubwealth.com/blog. And what you all should do, since you're interested in this topic, go check out the Why Hire Buyers Agents blog post on the Club Wealth blog. There's a checklist right there that you can download. It's free. It tells you where to advertise, what to advertise, exactly what contracts to use. Everything you need to hire buyers agents is right there. You can get it for free. And then I would absolutely, as a piece of that, absolutely got to make Wise Hire a part of what you do. You got to do it. I mean, we do. And the reason we do is because it freaking works. And we like stuff that works.
Well, when you guys are done and you're ready to come over to WiseHire, when you get there, wisehire.com, that's with a Z, WIZEHIRE, just put in /Club Wealth. Okay. There's a nice little offer up there, taking 10% off when you guys sign up. And got to give a little love to Frank over at Viral Marketing. His staff helped us put this together, and Viral Marketing, if you guys need help with putting videos out there on both sides, which is what I love what Frank does, great at creating education-based marketing, content marketing that's going out to both buyers, sellers, and talent, and a job and a careers page. So Viral with a Y, check out Viral Marketing. But guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Michael, awesome. Best Tara, everybody back over there. So you guys take care. All right. We'll talk soon.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Jay. See you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See you.